over the last few weeks, I just talked about Paul's perspective of the church. You know, sometimes because of relationships, because of how we think and feel at the times, sometimes it's easy not to think so highly of the church. But one of the things that Paul taught us over and over again in his letters to the different churches was that he always had an attitude of thankfulness to them. Whether or not they were perfect or not. We know there's no perfect church. As long as there's sinners who need to be redeemed by the blood of Christ, there's always going to be some frictions and some maturities that need to come and grow. But one of the things that we learn is we should always be thankful because Christ laid down his life for the church. He gave us one another, and that's one of the greatest blessings he gave us. Over the last few weeks, we've actually had a great time in where we were thankful. We thanked God for our Bible class teachers. We thank God for our adult Bible class teachers. We thank God for our senior saints. And today I want to finish off the sermon series on thankfulness for the church on focusing on a group. And this group of people that I want to show thankfulness to are people I don't even know who they are. Now you might think, what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is that we should be thankful for the unsung heroes in the church. For me, I often think about the unsung heroes of the church are ones who are serving in complete humility to Christ, that their motivation to serve is to do God's will, but they do it in a way in which they don't do it for own self-glory. There's a lot of people who serve in the church who don't do it for the credit, who don't even know, people don't even know that they're serving. One of the things I think about is how so often those are the people that I admire and look up to the most. Because you can see they serve God because they love people and they love God. See, one of the things that I think about is I often think, you know what, the church can't run effectively and do God's will effectively if people are not willing to serve. But why is it that the church runs and operates? It is making a difference, making disciples, encouraging one another. It's all because people are serving in the church. And oftentimes, I thought to myself, the greatest people who have touched my life may be the very people who I never knew touched my life. Because of their humility, because of their hearts, because of their generosity and their kindness and their prayers, they're just blessing our lives. And they're doing things behind the scenes. And I always like to give the credit to those who work behind the scenes. It's easy to look at the preacher. It's easy to look at elders of the church. It's easy to look at those who have a more public role. But I thought, you know what? The ones who make a huge difference are the ones who are doing things in secret, day in and day out for the Lord, that no one even knows about. And I know oftentimes it's really discouraging and hard to serve God. We live in a culture that really persecutes us for serving God. We live in a culture where we devalue people unless you're getting glory and self-worship. We live in a culture today where if you're not being recognized, that means you don't have any value. I say that is absolutely wrong. And oftentimes I think, you know what, the heroes of the church are the ones that we don't know about. You know, the Gospel of John mentions that Jesus did so many works that if books were written about everything Jesus had done, the world just wouldn't have enough space for it. And I thought, how is that even possible? And I thought it's because Jesus had a character of service. He had a compassion that penetrated his heart. He was the one who made a huge difference for the Lord. One of the things that I often also think about is what kind of difference do we make in the lives of each other? And are we willing to make a difference in the lives of each other? And are we willing to thank those who are heroes in the church? I mean, I don't know about you, but is it sometimes hard and discouraging to continue on doing the work of God when no one recognizes it sometimes? Or even when they appreciate it? Or you serve people and you keep helping them, and then it seems like they don't even know that you're helping them, and they may hurt you. When I think about this, I'm teaching this lesson for you guys. Because you guys have done that for me, you have done that for the church, and I want you to know you're recognized. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know who you are. But I know that God does. One of the great things that as a preacher is, oftentimes it's just like lies. Truth has a way of coming out. And one of the truths that comes out is that I like to see and hear. Throughout this week, I was inspired. I was inspired this week because I saw some people coming to the church building and doing things. I saw some people helping other people. And sometimes when people don't know what people are doing, I hear things through the grapevine, people's kindness and generosity and service to one another. And you know what? That makes me go to God in prayer each day and just say, God, thank you. Thank you that they're willing to serve and they're doing it without anyone telling them, without any public acknowledgement. And I just think the kind of people who are willing to do that understand faith. The people who are willing to do that have an active and alive faith because they're the ones who understand, because Jesus Christ was a servant and did so many things for me and showed me love and compassion, the only overflow out of my life and my heart is to serve other people. And to think, you know what, the world is a better place when there are more servants in the world. We don't need more dictators, we don't need more lords. We have one Lord. What we need is more servants in the church. You know, I often look at people who seem to be very happy in their faith. And I remember talking to this one guy from Tennessee. I met him a couple years ago at a seminar, and he just seemed so happy for the Lord. And he was excited every time he talked, every time he prayed, every time he was just encouraging every single person. And I went up to him, and I asked him, I said, how come you seem so joyful? I mean, what encourages you in ministry? What makes you just excited? And he said, you know what, every day I wake up and say, I have an opportunity to serve somebody. And every day I realize that's when my life counts and that's when I experience joy. And when I thought about that, I thought, you know what, the best moments in my life have not been the times when people did stuff for me, but when I had the ability to do something for someone else. This guy also went on to tell me, say, part of the way to humble yourself and continually serve God and to remember the message of the cross of Jesus Christ is to remember there's always someone worse off than you. And that God has placed you specifically in their life to be the difference maker in their life. Just like how Jesus Christ saw our sinful situation and he lowered himself to become man and died on the cross for us. The ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate service. He taught us what it meant to be a servant. And so I want to appreciate everyone who is serving in the Lord's church. And I want you to realize, you know what? A lot of times the church functions because you're willing to do the tasks that no one wants to do. You know, I hear about all the things that, I don't hear all the things, I probably hear a fraction of the things that are happening. You know what, this week I saw some people coming up to the church building and doing some building maintenance. We all benefit from being in this building right now and having a parking lot because people do things. You know, some people went, we had a baptism, some people went and got some of the baptismal garments and brought them home to wash. Some people do babysitting for other people. Other people fix other people's cars. Some people have done mow people's lawns. Other people were generous. People gave flowers. Some people sent out cards. Some people prayed for other people and encouraged them. Other people left gift cards for other people. So other people have just done this or that. And I just think there's all these different things that people are doing because of Jesus Christ and it's their Lord and Savior because they want to imitate Him. And I say, you're the heroes. You're the heroes of the church. And I can't express enough to you on behalf of myself and even on the church that we're thankful that you're willing to do those things. Willing to be a hero of faith because you're willing to sometimes do the tasks that no one in the world would want to do or the world would look down and say, that's glorious. You know, oftentimes I think about Jesus Christ and I think, you know what? In our movies, we like to watch those death scenes where someone's doing something noble and he's dying this glorious death. But then we look at the cross of Jesus Christ and think, you know what? He got accused for being a criminal. He died between criminals and he was mocked as a criminal. His death wasn't glorious.